Right, okay, welcome to this little video that's going to take you through making a little version of Flappy Bird called Flappy Block. It's written in Unity. There's a basic project already created that's got assets created for the actors in the game and some basic frameworks for the code. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the remaining code that's required to make this game work. Um, and then what we'll do, we will be able to run it and play a game and see who can get the high score. Okay, so what you'll need to do is go to Visual Studio, and you can see in here, this is where there's some code. It's already set up, and we're just going to work on one bit of code at a time, and I'll explain what's going on as we go along. Okay, so at the top here, you can see the tabs. There's 4 bits of code open. So let's just click on gameplay. There's some data at the top of this code. Don't worry about too much about what that is. If we get time, we'll have a play about with some of that stuff. But what we're going to do is we're going to write the start routine. Now there's some code already here, and you can see that this routine here is the start routine. All the code that we type is going to go in between braces. So what we need to do is move our cursor just below those first 2 lines, which just set up some user interface code. Okay, and what we're going to do, the gameplay, we need to listen out for the player crashing into one of the columns that are going to appear. Okay, so we're going to do that by typing just below these 2 lines in start, we're going to type message bus. Now you'll notice that a little picker list comes up. So we want message bus, that one. Spelling is case sensitive in this language, which is C#. So it's very important to use this picker. So I can just, now I've selected message bus, I can just press enter. Okay, so it saves on the amount of typing I have to do. Then I'm going to say dot, and I'm going to say the instance of message bus. Then I'm going to say dot, and I'm going to say subscribe. Okay, so again, I only typed a few letters, then I used the picker. Then I'm going to put a left bracket, and inside the left bracket, I'm going to type message type, and it's that one there with the orange next to it, message type dot, and I'm going to pick stop moving, because when the bird crashes or the block crashes into a column, it's going to broadcast a message and say, oh no, stop moving, everything stop moving. Okay, so that's going to inform the gameplay controller that we've crashed. So we're going to say crashed, and you can see it's in the picker again. So just type that in. Right, at the end of the line, you have to put a semicolon. That's the syntax of C#. Lots of languages use that same syntax. So that's the start code. Now, when the user starts a game, they're going to press a button to start the game. What we'll need to do is to initialize a few things. Okay. So we want the gap that the player's got to fly through to be in the center of the screen height-wise. So we've got a value called last column center. So again, I typed last. So if I do that slower, last, and it was the only thing there in the picker. So I just press enter, and I'm going to set that to 0, which is the center of the screen. I'm going to hide the start button. So we're going to say B start. That's what the start button's called. Dot game object dot set active, and then in brackets I'm going to say false, which means basically hide it, so we can't click on it again. Right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start creating columns. So we're going to type create. I'll scroll this up a little bit. Create new columns. So I've selected that with the mouse this time, so I've just double clicked, and then I'm going to say bracket, bracket. So open and close bracket, and then I'm going to put a semicolon again. Okay, so what that's going to do is going to create the first column that we're going to fly through. It'll be off the screen, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see I've already written this code because it's a little bit complicated. I'll scroll down and explain how it works in a minute, but we're not going to edit that. There's a little bit of maths involved on that one. Right, so we're going to create the first column, but we also need to create our Flappy block. All right, so we're going to do that by saying game object. So that's the capital G capital O1, and then we're going to say Flappy or Flappy equals, and then we're going to use a fancy word called instantiate, and then we're going to do a less than, and we're going to say game object, capital letter, capital G, capital O, and then after the greater than sign, we're going to do a left bracket, and then we're going to say bird. So this is our Flappy Block object, okay, which has been, I've already created for you, but we're just going to say, right, let's create one of these Flappy blocks. And then we're going to put it in the center of the screen. So we're going to say Flappy, now we've created it, dot transform. Transform is how you manipulate things in 3D. We're going to manipulate the position in 3D, and we're going to set it to right in the center of the screen. So we're going to say new vector 3, and even highlight that for me. I'm going to put a bracket, and I'm going to say naught, comma naught, comma naught. So that's a 3D position, an X, Y, Z position. So that's bang in the center of the screen. Okay, so every time we start a new game, that's what we're going to do. We're going to hide the start button, we're going to start creating columns, and we're going to create a new Flappy block. Okay, when we crash, so let's go to that code now. So put our cursor, just click in between the two braces, tab it in. It'll move things anyway. So what we want to do, if we've crashed, we don't want to keep creating columns. So we're going to say cancel invoke, and then in brackets, so we put left and right bracket, then we put double quote, and then inside the double quotes, we're going to say create with a capital C, new capital N columns. Okay. And then at the end of the line, we're going to put semicolon. If you've typed that wrong, so let's say I put create blue columns, that's not going to work. But if you just look down a little bit, the routine we want to cancel is create new columns. So if we double click over that text, create new columns, copy it using Control C, then double click over the red writing, it'll select it, and we can do Control V to paste over it, and we can spell it correctly. Okay. So we're going to stop making any new columns when we've crashed, but we're also going to say, right, okay, let's sit on the screen for a bit and then show game over. So we're going to say invoke. So this is like asking a timer to happen. So we're saying invoke, and what do we want to invoke? Well, it's game over. So we're going to say double quote, and then just below, this is the routine we want to run. So we're going to double click over game over to highlight it. Press Control C to copy. And then in between the double quotes, so move your cursor so it's in between like that. We're going to do Control V so we can paste it in. You can type it if you want, but you've got to spell it exactly the same. Okay, right. After you've done the double quotes, you're going to put a comma, and we need to give it a time. So we're going to say end game time. So this is a special value that I've created. Okay, so after end game time, we're going to run the game over routine. So let's look at what's in the game over routine. So that's just below. So let's fill this in. So what we're going to do is we're going to show the start button again. So inside game over, we're going to say b start dot game object dot set active. So again, I only typed set and it came up. And I'm going to open the bracket and I'm going to say true. So we basically turn the button back on. And then at the end of the line, semicolon. The other thing we want to do, because when the game over happens and we show the start button, we need to get rid of the Flappy block and any columns that are on the screen. So we need to broadcast a message telling everything to destroy itself. So we're going to say message bus dot instance dot broadcast message, open the bracket, and the message we're going to broadcast is message type, just right down there, destroy. So there'll be the block and the Flappy block and the columns will be listening out for that message. Okay, so they're going to destroy that. So that's all the code we've got to write. Let me just quickly look at create new columns with and just explain what it's doing. So for this to work, we need to make a column above and a column below. So we leave a gap, and in the gap we need to make a hidden column, but we're going to be able to see this to start with, and I'll show you how to turn that off later. But so we're going to make these 3 bits of columns, okay? And we want them to move up and down a little. So these first 3 blocks make the 3 bits of column. The next block here decides whether we need to move up or down the next time we make a column, so we don't have a straight line, they go wiggly. And then this bit just tells us not to go outside of the screen. And then the last bit says, oh, in a little bit of time, create another column. Okay, so we just keep spawning columns because it's an endless runner type game until we crash, and that's when we say stop making columns up there. Okay, so that's the gameplay code written. If you've got any problems, just give us a shout and we'll come along and try and help you. Right, let's have a look at the code that's going to help us control the Flappy Block. Now again, there's some moderately complicated bits of syntax here, so I've put some code in already, but I'll explain what they do. So we're going to do the start code first. So the code that's already there is going to turn gravity off, because what's going to happen is the Flappy Block is just going to be sat on screen until it's activated, and then we're going to, and we color it grey to start with, so that's the line. So you can see sort of what that line's doing. So we turn gravity off so we don't fall, and we make the block look grey. What we will then do is when we start playing the game, we're going to turn gravity on and we'll have to start flapping then so we don't fall. We're also going to change the block so it's white so the user can see that the game is on. Okay, so that's what the essence of how this is going to start. Right, so in the start code, we've done the gravity off, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say playing equals false because we don't want the player to be able to flap until we've started playing properly. So we're going to turn gravity on in a little while. So we're going to say invoke, and then we're going to say turn on gravity. So we're going to do double quotes inside our brackets, and then we're going to just go down to here and double click where it says turn on gravity. As soon as it's highlighted, press Control C to copy, and then in between the double quotes from the invoke line, we're just going to paste using Control V, turn on gravity. At the end of the line, we're going to say semicolon. Oh, hang on a minute, I keep doing this. Right, so after the turn on gravity, we're going to do a comma, and then we're going to say, right, what should we have? 1.5 seconds. You put a little f to mean fraction. You don't, but that's what I'm telling you it's for. Okay, so we say 1.5 seconds, the game's going to start. So the columns will be coming towards us, and we won't be able to do anything for 1.5 seconds, which will give us enough time to just calm down after pressing the start button. Okay, so the other bit of code we need to do is we need to listen out for the game controller telling us that we've all got to get off the screen. So we're going to say on the next line down, message bus dot instance dot subscribe message type. Oh, it's the one with the capital M you want. Message. So it's got the little orange thing next to it. Message type dot destroy comma, and then we're going to say end me. So that's the code that's going to run, and semicolon at the end. Okay, so that's the end of the start code. So whenever we create a new Flappy block, we need to activate all that. Now, when we turn gravity on, so we've already got some code in there. So we turn gravity on and we change the block to white. You can change the color of that, but we'll leave it as white at the minute. We're then going to allow the user to play. So we're going to say playing equals true. So I'm typing that with a semicolon at the end in turn on gravity. Okay. Let's have a look at the end me code. So if we just press enter, so we've got a blank line inside end me. So what we need to do is we need to say, okay, we've been told to get destroyed. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that we don't listen to any more messages to do with that. If we don't do this, it all goes horribly wrong. So we're going to say message bus dot instance dot unsubscribe. So we don't want to listen to messages anymore. Left bracket, and then we're going to say message type dot destroy. So we can say unsubscribe from the destroy message because I've just heard it and I've just destroyed myself, so I don't need to do it anymore. So we're going to say message type dot destroy comma end me. Then we're going to put a semicolon at the end. Right, so what we're then going to do is say, let's destroy me. So we're going to say destroy, and this tells Unity just to get rid of a game object. So we can say this dot game object. Okay, so semicolon. So if you're finding that I'm going too fast, just pause the video and just look at what's on screen, and just check to see what you've got on screen as well. Right, okay, so we got 2 more bits of code to do. So we've got to do the update routine. Now the update routine is a thing that runs constantly. Every time the graphics card draws a frame, an update routine is run first. Okay, so this happens 60 times a second. So what we need to do is we need to check if the user's pressed the space bar. If they have, we're going to make the bird flap up. Okay, it's like it's flapped its wings. But ours is a block, but it's still flapping. Okay, so in the update routine, we're going to type if. Now, you'll see that something pops up on screen. It says tab twice to insert the if snippet. So we're going to press tab. Okay. Now, it's put the brackets in and it's put braces in for us, which is very nice of it. Inside the brackets, it's already highlighted the word true, but we're going to get rid of that by just typing playing. So if we're playing, then we're going to say and, which is ampersand, which is shift 7. Okay, so we say if we're playing and the user's pressed the space bar, which is the key we're going to use. So we indicate that by saying Input.GetKey, and then open a left bracket, and then we say key code. It's a bit of a mouthful. Key code dot space. So use the picker so you don't spell it wrong. Put a right bracket. Don't put a semicolon at the end. We don't need to in this case. So that's our if. So we can say if that's true, then we're going to allow the user to jump up. So we're going to say this.get component, and then we're going to do a less than, and we're going to say rigid body, which is how we access physics for an object in Unity. Then after the right greater than sign, we're going to do a left bracket, and it'll put a right bracket in for us. Then we're going to do dot, and we're going to say add relative force. So it's like an impulse. So we force the character to go up. So we're going to say add relative force, then we're going to do a left bracket, and then we're going to say vector3 dot up, which means go up the screen. And we're going to say multiply, which is the asterisk, by hop. Okay, so hop is the amount that we're allowed to jump every time we press the space bar. Then we're going to put a semicolon at the end. Okay, so what we've got there is that won't work if playing is false. So as soon as gravity is turned on, we set playing to true, and then that'll allow the space bar to work. Okay, so that's what we do in the update routine. Right, the last bit we've got to do for the bird is to do collision checking. Now we can collide with 2 different things, either a column which is bad, or we can hit a passing check column, which is in the center, which is going to be our hidden thing. If we hit that, we're going to get some score. Okay, so I've set the framework for this code up. So this is on trigger enter. So the columns are triggers. So if we interact with a trigger, and there's one called pass check. So if we put our cursor there, just where it says case pass check, just underneath, we're going to say score plus equals 2, which means add 1 onto our score. So we're going to score 2 points for every column we get past. What we're then going to do is we're going to destroy the pass check object. So we're going to say destroy other, which is the thing I hit, dot game object. That just removes it, so otherwise we'll get loads of points if we didn't do that. So every time, as we go through it, we get loads of points. And what we're also going to do is we're going to indicate that we've got a score. So we're going to say message bus dot broadcast dot instant, dot broadcast message, open left bracket, and we're going to say message type. So that's message type with a capital M, dot score. I'm going to say comma, and I'm going to send my score. And we're going to write the code in a little while to show that on the screen. Okay, so that's what happens if we hit our friendly bit of column, we get points. But if we don't hit a friendly bit of column, we do this default thing. So just below, and I've set up a few bits, and we'll just quickly look at them, but you can probably guess what they're doing. So other is the thing we hit. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the color of the column we hit to red, so we can see which part we hit. So it's going to go red and make us look embarrassed. We're then going to turn gravity off for our flappy block, because we don't want it to fall down the screen, because it will do. And we're also going to stop it moving. So we're going to, any movement it did have, we're going to kill. So it'll just sit on the screen. We're also going to indicate to all the columns that they need to stop moving. So below these 3 bits of code that are already there, we're going to broadcast another message. So we're going to say message bus dot instance dot broadcast message. So we've done this a few times now. Left bracket. Then the message type we're going to send, so that's the capital M message type, is dot stop moving. Okay, we don't need to do anything else, so we just left bracket, closing bracket, and then a semicolon. And we need to stop the player being able to move the Flappy Block, so we're going to say playing equals false. So we turn that off. Right, and that's all the code we need to write for the character. If you've got stuck, just give us a shout and we'll come over and have a look. Okay, the next bit of code we're going to do is the code that moves columns along the screen so we can hit them or dodge them, depending on how good we are. So we're going to go to column move.cs. Okay. Right, so when we're doing this, we're going to initially want these to move. Okay. But when we crash, we want all the columns to stop. So we're going to need a mechanism to allow us to say, oh, do we move or don't we move? A bit like the can the player flap or not, but this is all automatic. So just above the start routine, so you can see I've put my cursor there. Just going to make that a little bit bigger. Just for the start routine, we're going to say bool, and then we'll leave a space, and we're going to say moving, and then put a semicolon. So that's going to be a true or false value, a bool. It's short for Boolean. And if it's true, we're going to move the columns. If it's false, we're not going to move the columns. Okay, and we'll get on to doing that in a sec. So right, so let's do the start code. So when we create a column, we're going to get them to say moving equals true, so that they get updated and they move on screen. We're also going to need to listen out for that message telling us to stop moving. So we're going to say message bus.instance.subscribe, open a left bracket, and then we're going to say message type dot stop moving, and we're going to say comma halt. So when we get that message, we're going to run the routine called halt. So put semicolon at the end. Okay, and we'll come on to that one in a sec. Right, the next routine we've got on here is one that's got a weird name, on became invisible. So this is when Unity thinks that an object's moved off screen. So when our columns move off screen and they've gone past us, we don't want to keep moving them, even though they're not on screen. We want to get rid of them. So that's what this little routine is for. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to unsubscribe from any messages, because that will break things if we don't do things. So we can say message bus.instance.unsubscribe, and we put a left bracket, and then we say message type dot stop moving, comma halt. So we're saying, okay, we don't want to listen to any more messages because we're getting destroyed. So on the next line down, we say destroy object, and then in the brackets we say game object, semicolon. Okay, so when we go off screen, we say don't give us any more messages, and we get destroyed by Unity. Now, when we get the halt message, so let's do the halt routine now. We're going to do the same subscription. So if you want to go up to where we just typed in on became invisible and copy message bus.instance.unsubscribe, so that line that we just typed, if we copy that, Control C, put our cursor in halt in between the two left, oh, I'll get my words out in a minute, in between the opening and closing brace. So I've got my cursor there. If I just paste that with Control V, it saves me having to type it. It's identical. Okay, so we're going to unsubscribe from the message. What we're also going to say, so we don't want to move anymore. So we're going to say moving equals false. Okay. And on the next line, what we want to happen is when we crash, we want to see where we've crashed. So we want to be able to look at that for a few seconds before we get rid of everything on screen. So what we're going to do next, we're going to say destroy this.gameObject, which means this block, this column. So this.gameObject, and then we're going to say comma gameplay gameplay dot end game time. We've seen that already once. So what that'll happen is the object will get destroyed, but not straight away, but it'll be in so many seconds time. Okay, just as we show the start button. So the columns will disappear off screen and the start button will reappear magically at the same time. Okay, right, the last bit of code we've got to do is the update code. So the thing that's going to move the code along the screen. So we're going to go to the update and we're going to type if, and then we're going to press tab twice. So tab, tab. Now we don't want to do the if it's true. We want to put in there where the true is highlighted, moving. So it should automatically allow you to just type over it. Okay, so if we're moving, we're going to move the column. So if moving is true, move the column. So in between the two braces that it's made, we're going to type this long bit of code, but I'll explain what it's doing. We're going to say this dot translate dot transform. So transform is just a 3D operation in a 3D game, and then we're going to say translate. So we say this dot transform dot translate, which means move, physically move left, right, up, down, in and out. Then we're going to open a bracket and we're going to say vector3 dot left. So we're going to say move left. Then we're going to say multiply, which is asterisk, by gameplay dot speed. So how fast are the columns moving, and we can change these settings. And then we're going to multiply it also and say, right, well, okay, I want to move, but I don't want to move too far because I'm doing this moving 60 times a second. So I need to say only do it, I need to say multiply by time dot delta time. So what that does is says, okay, how much should you move for one particular frame, okay, in the game? And then we're going to just put space dot world. So we're moving in the world. Okay, and I'm going to put a semicolon at the end. So it looks quite complicated, but all it does is it just makes the block move a certain amount every frame. And we get a nice smooth movement. Okay, so that is the code for doing the column moving. One more bit of code to go, and this is the shortest bit of code. Okay, and then we're ready to play a game. So we're going to go to score show. And we're going to put the code in that is going to do all the score updates so we can see what score we've got on screen. So there's only two routines to do, update score and start. So when we start, we're going to listen out for score messages. So we're going to, in the start routine, say message bus dot instance dot subscribe to, and then we do a left bracket, and then we're going to say message type, so that's the one with capital M, dot score. And when we get a message of that type, we're going to run update score. So I'm using the picker again. So I typed UPDA. I've scrolled down to update score, and then I pressed enter. At the end of the line, put a semicolon. That's all we've got to do for the start routine. Right, so the update score routine, we're going to need to do an if because we need to make sure that everything's ready when we want to display our text on screen. And sometimes it might not be. So we need to just put a little if to say, right, well, I only do this if things are ready. Okay, so we're going to type in update score, in between the two braces, we're going to say if, then we're going to go tab, tab. And where that true is, we're going to type this, T score, so use the picker. And then we're going to go exclamation mark equals, which means not equal. So we can say if t-score is not equal to null. So we're basically saying, does it exist? If it exists, great, we can do some code. All right, so just move your cursor into the gap between the opening and closing brace. So we're going to say, If we have got this t-score thing, which is just the text display for the score, then we're good to go and we're going to do some work. So the first thing we're going to do is capture the score that we've been given. So we're going to say int, which just means whole number, current score equals, right. So we're going to store something in current score. So we're then going to say left bracket int. So we say, right, we know it's an integer. And then we're going to say message dot object value. So we've been given a message, which is going to be the score. All we're doing here is saying, oh, let's get hold of this and store it in something with a sensible name called current score. Right, what we're also going to do is we're going to see if we're beating the high score as we're playing, so we can update the high score at the same time. So we're going to do another if, so we're going to say if, and then we're going to go tab tab. Where it says true, we're going to type current score is greater than high score. So we're going to say, oh, if the score we've got is better than the high score, let's update the high score, so it's the same as ours. Okay, so in between the two parentheses it's just made, we're going to say high score equals current score. So you can say we've got the current score. Right, and then the last bit of code we've got, you see we've got a lot of closing brackets here, but just after this high score one, just there, just look at what I've got on the screen on the video. I'll just scroll that up. We're going to just type, well, put our scores on screen. So we're going to say t-score, which is our normal score, dot text, use the picker, equals, and then in double quotes, we're going to say score in capital letters, leave a space, and then after that, we're going to put plus current score. Again, I'm using the picker. Then I'm going to put a semicolon. So what that's going to do is display on screen the word score plus the score we've got. On the next line, we're going to do the same for the high score. So T high score, you see there it is at the top, dot text equals, and obviously that's going to be in double quotes, high score, space, after the double quote, the final quote, put high score. Okay, now theoretically, that is everything done. So if we just go up to the top, up here, and click the Save All icon, which is the two little floppy disks. If you've never seen a floppy disk, ask us and we'll show you some. It's what we used to store things on before USB sticks years ago. So just click the floppy disk. All the little asterisks should have gone from these codes. So that's saved all the code you've written. Now we can go back to Unity. Okay. You'll see in Unity that we've got this screen on. This is just like our editor screen. Up here at the top, there's these play pause buttons. We're going to click the little black play button. Hopefully, after a little bit of jigging around, it'll go blue. Blue means it's running, the game's running. Now it's in this small window, but you can see that what we've got is this start game. So if we click this, we should start the game. So let's just click that. Oh, there's the Flappy Block. As soon as it's white, that wasn't a very good score. As soon as it goes white, we can start flapping using the space. Once you've clicked the start game once, you can just press space to activate it the second time. So here we go. So it's just very ginger. You can see the blue ones. My video should be like rippling now because I'm recording at the same time and that's murdering my computer, which is making it quite hard for me to score, which is my excuse. So I'm allowed to hit the blue ones. Oh, got the high score now. And you can see that if I hit one, we colour in the one I've hit and we can see what we've hit, and then they'll disappear and it goes back to start game. So you can see the high score is now 22. Okay, to stop playing the game, if you want to edit something, we just click the play button at the top again, and it should go all back to filled in black. Now, if we want to make those pass blocks disappear, you see down here there's something called pass material. So if we click on that, it shows this little blue sphere. That's what colour that block is. So we could just change the colour of it. So we could go up here where it says albedo. Don't ask me what that means. I have no idea. Click the little blue thing and you get this little map up. If you want to change the colour of it, just pick one of the colours and select in here. But what we want to do is make it invisible. So if you look at this thing down here at the bottom that says A, If you make that 0, that will make it completely transparent because A stands for alpha. Okay, so that's transparency. So if we just click off that now, you can just close that window and I start playing my game again. So I move up and press the play button. You'll see that when I click start, I won't see those center blocks. They're there, but I just can't see them. So you can see my scores going up. I'm hitting them. Ooh, that was close. Ow. Okay, so I mean, that's it. It's over to you to play. If you want to make the game run faster, if you go up to this left-hand window that says where it says controller and just select that. Oh, I thought I had that in there actually. No, I didn't. Oh, if we go back to Visual Studio and you go to gameplay, at the top there is float speed. So if we make that 10 and then we make sure we do save and then we go back to Unity. Okay, just to wait a few seconds because it like does some jiggery pokery, and then we can go up and press the play button. You'll notice that the blocks come at me a lot faster. So let's start the game. Ooh. Oh. Okay, so just talk to us and we'll explain how you can play with it. I'll just stop that. I'll stop the video now. Thanks.